Thank you so much for coming. And I am very excited to give this. This is like a new workshop that I've made, and it's very much like in line with a lot of research that I've been working on, or that has been coming together really over the last 7 years, building up to here. And yeah. So this workshop, I want to talk about sorry guys, I'm a little bit nervous. I think that there's something really interesting and compatible with creativity and the tarot, because in the tarot, a lot of it is about looking at symbols. And I think that the more that we can learn about symbols and what we think symbols mean, the more that our imagination will grow, and our intuition, obviously. And I think that there's something like there's something really compatible going on there. So this is an example of the zine following the process I'm about to give. And 8 pages. I've like cut into mine, and if we have time, we'll go there. And yeah, it's very much more of like an abstract process, and I'm going to give some free association drawing and writing. Can everybody, if anyone can't see my screen, just put like a wave. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we can see them. Thank you.
So I personally define a zine as a artist self-published work. These are examples of some of the zines that I've either collected over the years or have meant something to me. And often they are either poetry or they're made in like scrapbooks, and they're just quite abstract, cut out shapes. And the author has like processed has gone through some sort of like regular process to get to it. Or they're just, visual poetry. And I guess I'm trying to emphasize today that the zine we're going to make is something like a kind of visual poem. And my name is Kaite. So basically my details are at the top. And if you are interested in my work after this, I will be also doing another performance piece, which is around the same kind of vibe as this in London next month. And yeah, so essentially I'm from Glastonbury town, which is a very new age place. I was raised, my mom is a medium. So this has been kind of like actually my whole life. And the older I get, the more that, well, in the last, 5-7 years, I've started trying to learn what it is that she's doing. And I think that learning the tarot is a life's journey. And as well as like also all spirituality, I think that our personal spiritual practice is a life journey. And I think that there's something really interesting in it. And yeah, just to emphasize that, I guess what I'm trying to get at today is that there are symbols, and I think there are loads of associated symbols. So my whole life, I grew up looking at this hill called the Tor, and it's kind of like a bit of a joke, but it's like a real big symbol of this really hippie town called Glastonbury. And I've come to think the Tor is the same shape as, mushrooms and a breast. That's actually my artwork on the left. I also make animation, basically. So I have a lot of like cut out parts, and you might see this. Hence, I'm quite interested in like cutting out things. Mountains and bells and water droplets. And I think I keep seeing this, like, if I get fixated on a symbol, I see this repeated symbol happening elsewhere. And I think that sometimes these are signs, and sometimes these are clues, and something really interesting for us to follow. And I want to just encourage everyone to try and look for signs in life and so on. So before I go any further, I would really love to do a short meditation with everyone, just to get grounded. And this is also how I read tarot. So if I'm reading for someone, then we will do a quick meditation together. This one is a little bit more elaborate, but it's just a really nice way to shift from this analytical brain that we have to use all day when we're working, and move into more of a relaxed space. And when we're in a more of a relaxed space, we are, more comfortable, we notice things and so on. So feel free to turn off your camera if you prefer. And it's very short. So I want to invite everyone first to take 3 breaths into your belly. So breathing into your belly activates the parasympathetic system, whatever, but it basically shifts you from flight or flight to this relaxed space. So 3 deep breaths. And keeping your eyes closed, I want to invite you to imagine that there's a root system coming out of the perineum. It's the area between your 2 sex holes. And this root system is going down and connecting down into the earth towards the core of the earth. And this is going to keep you grounded for the next 50 minutes. And I like to imagine that the root system, when this root is coming down and it's connecting to earth, I like to imagine I'm connecting into the other trees outside wherever I am, or the plants outside, and whatever nature is in, the mile around my house. And then I like to imagine that the earth is then sending me up this really nice light energy. And I think we've all been in our days, and I think if there's anything on our minds that might be taking up a bit of space right now, that doesn't need to be here right now, I think that we can give it to the earth to hold for us. And I also want to do a bit of a mind play and invite everyone to think about something that's sweet. And it can be whatever came into your mind instantly. Might be a memory, it might be something in particular. And I want to invite you to think about whatever this sweet thing is, how does it feel in your body? Do you feel it in your heart, in your stomach, on your skin? And now give that memory to the earth and say thank you. And now I want to encourage you to think about something bitter. And again, it can be a feeling, a memory, taste. And again, think about, where does that come up for you? Do you feel it in your heart, your mind, your stomach, somewhere particular in your body? And again, send that down to the earth, say thank you. And I called those to mind because I want you to think about your intuition. And when you feel those aspects in your body, or when you give in, when they conjure up, that's your intuition speaking. And I want to use this next hour to keep playing with how we can maybe increase our connection with our intuition. And I just want to close this short meditation by inviting everyone just to make a quick intention for the next hour. And may we all have some kind of creative spark. And now open your eyes and join me back on my screen. You don't necessarily have to turn your cameras on. And I'll ask everyone how they felt about that at the end. I'll sort of keep moving. I think I want to encourage everyone to sort of see this as like a meditation for the next 20 minutes and a bit of space. So to continue where we've just been, I like this slide. It's about how there's over 400 identified types of cabbage in the world. And I think often we think of cabbage and we just think of one kind of cabbage, but we forget that there's cabbage all over the world and everybody's eating cabbage, and there's loads of types of cabbage. And the value of this is that the world is abundant and imagination is abundant, and there's so many possibilities of things. And so it's just a simple thing I wanted to share. And this is a quote which kind of sums up what I'm trying to say here. It's from an amazing book by Rob Hopkins, which I really recommend to anybody who's interested in ecology and social activism, community. It's like I would say it's probably like a Bible. I think there's so many interesting narratives from all over the world. But he says something really interesting about imagination. He says that he thinks imagination is a tool, and it's the best tool we have to, work with society generally. And we'll kind of come back to this, but also it's an important point. And if nature is abundant, there is so much, possibility. There's much more possibility than we maybe even have when we're dealing with things. And I will share this deck if anyone's missing the full quote. And another iteration of this very same point before we start working. But I thought this is such a good example. So Tony Hawk, in an interview with Rick Rubin on his podcast, he was saying that Tony Hawk, when they made Pro Skater, our most iconic game of our youth, the rail trick, it was a fantasy. He said that this was just like a fantastical way for the characters to get around. But then after they made the game, so many people grew up playing this game that now this rail trick is like a really common trick that everybody does. So it's sort of just to emphasize that the fictional worlds that we create can actually inspire, change, literally. And it can be as fun or banal or serious as you wish. Okay, so tarot, really interesting. Maybe it's worth, does anybody want to send like a love heart if they are familiar with tarot or use it already, or I don't know if it's possible, but we can also talk about it. It's gonna be quite a brief introduction to tarot because of the time, but I'm gonna hopefully provide some interesting insights. So I believe, and I think a lot of tarot readers believe, obviously everybody has their own beliefs because this isn't like necessarily an easy system to just find out. I believe that when we're reading tarot, we're tapping into the astral plane, and astral plane exists between essentially us and God. Above the astral plane would be like the angels, for example, but the astral plane is the world of plant medicines, the tarot, spirits, and kind of like ghosts and this kind of thing. And so I bring this into this talk because I think it's really important for anyone who's interested in tarot. I think it's just really important to take a certain formality when you use these cards, and just because they carry a kind of vibration, and it's just really good to do what we just did, which is ground and stay grounded. And I'll also show you this is actually my practice in general. So I light candles, potentially, or I use bells. I ground down, hence the trees. And then I imagine, this is the most crucial thing, is I imagine a mirrored cloak around me. And I do this actually every day. This is called like spiritual hygiene. I imagine a mirrored cloak around me. Lots of people have different concepts, but it's sort of to like stop anything that you don't want coming into your system. And if you're interested in understanding a bit more about this, just message me. And yeah, and then before I read for people, I ask my higher self, and I actually ask my angels, because I think that we all have angels. And I say like, angels, please, can you just like, let me do this and do it in a pure, kind, nice way. And I think these things are really important. So I'm now going to come off my thing, and I'm going to okay, so these are my cards, and I keep them in this pink cloth, which I've never washed, but you can do that. But there's a kind of thing with tarot cards that people tend to keep their cards in silk, if that's interesting. And this sort of ties into the whole thing about the vibrational energy. The cards that we're looking at today are from the Rider White set, and I use a set that's called the Golden Rider White, which my mum actually bought in the 90s, and I sort of inherited from her. And I have some other decks, and there's loads of different types of decks. These are one of the most famous, obviously. These ones I have the best relationship with, and I just really like them. They always feel a bit more positive to me. And so the origins of tarot are really vague. Some people say it's Egyptian times, some people say from the 1600s. Originally, it was like a kind of card game. So I'm just checking how much time I have. Yeah, at one point it was a card game, and actually, my dad once told me that the reason in the tarot deck you have the page, the knight. I'll show you properly when I get to it. The king and the queen, which originally in the card games would have been princess, prince, king, queen. And my dad said that when the Catholics became more Catholic and sort of patriarchy took over, they took out the princess, which is the page in my deck. So that's why in playing card decks today, normal ones, that's why there's no page anymore, because of potentially the patriarchy. This could be just my dad's. I've never seen that written down anywhere. Okay, so where to go? So yeah, this is the page, the knight, the queen, the swords. Oh yeah. Anyway, sorry. Page, knight, queen, king. These are part of the minor arcana. These are like the lower deck, and they tend to represent real people. So if they come up, they tend to be like actually a person in your life. And they each have different qualities. You know, there's a sort of like quite sweet naivety about pages. Knights are obviously like armored up and they kind of want to be like big boys now. And then the queens tend to come up when it's like sort of like long-term decision making, and kings tend to be fast decisions and kind of maybe a little bit more reactive, but they're still the top. Well, I would say they're pretty equal actually, these guys. And then the other thing to say is that the minor card has these suits. So you have the swords, you have wands, which is all about passion and your creativity. Then you have coins, which is all about money, but the body. So it's not just about money, but it's also about stability and so on. And cups, which is love, basically, hearts. And the other aspect of the tarot, which is a bit long to go into today, is a major element of it is numerology. So if you learn like the basic 1 to 9 of numerology, 1 to 10, sorry, of numerology, you'll basically have a grip on what is actually happening in each of these cards. So 5s, you know, tend to be like a bit of a friction, maybe a dilemma, or lucky, in my opinion. And then 2s, again, like a choice between two things, but also balance. And I think the other thing to say about tarot is that because when this was made, none of these there was no system written down. There's no actual definitive, like for sure truth of what the original painters of this intended. So this is why I want to encourage everyone today to look at this with an intuitive sense. There's things that we will see in these images that will mean something that might mean something else to somebody else. And so different readers will read different things from cards. So over the last 7 years, I've come to find that every time I see, you know, a certain card, I know that this, for me, in my experience, it's meant, you know, someone's going on traveling, or like, you know, it's a journey, and it can be quite an independent journey, but really fun if you just if you explore it. And the other thing to say is elements. Each of these are associated with elements, and also things like water. This is about emotions, and you know, air is about, you know, can be about freedom. It can be an indication of certain things. And I'm gonna, when I pull the cards, we'll go a bit more deeper into things. And then the core of the tarot, which is the most famous element of it, is the major arcana. And when these come up in readings, these tend to mean these are destiny. This is definitely going to happen. If you have a reading which has at least 3 or more major arcanas, it means the spread you're seeing is an indication of something pretty sure that's going to happen. Sorry, that's my alarm. And the major arcana, the last thing to say about it is that it follows a journey, like a journey of life, a journey of a cycle. And we all go through these very same cycles. We start journey. There's arguably not, it's the Fool and the Magician are both the beginning of the deck. It depends how you look at it. But you start your journey and you go and you take all your tools, you meet people at this level. And then as you go on, things get a little bit more abstract. until you're at the moon, the sun, judgment, the world. And yeah, and so now what I'm going to do for the main workshop is I'm going to focus on the major arcana, and I'm going to bring in the minor as a secondary element. I just think this will like give us a bit more play. And now I just want everyone to get their piece of paper and their pen ready, or pencil. So I'm using these colored so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. So for the next 20 minutes, I am going to, we're going to do some quite quick drawing based off the cards. And yeah, I'll pull a card, I'll have it face down, and when I turn it over, I'm going to give about 5 seconds of space for you to just draw or instinctively make a sketch of something that you feel compelled to do. And I'm doing this because when mediums or psychics or tarot readers or whatever, when you're reading, it's actually the first thing that instantly comes into your mind that is the unconscious symbolism that's going on here. And then everything else is actually just really just the mind adding noise. So I will pull the card, I'll let you look at it, make some instinctual drawing, and then I'll just start asking questions of what we're seeing in the card and invite you to choose how you feel and respond to that based off yourself, you know. Okay, so for this first card, we're going to draw across the whole page, and this card is the signifier. So when you're getting your tarot read, what happens is your cards are being shuffled. Sometimes a card might fall out of the pack. It's an accident, but this is the reader will keep this card, and that is your signifier. If it happened by accident, that's that there's something valuable there. And the other way to get the signifier, if this doesn't happen by accident, is you drop the pack. I'm a right-handed person, so I'm going to use my left hand. So my unconscious hand will now split the deck. And the signifier is whatever's on the bottom of this. So I'm going to turn this over, and we've got 1.5 minutes to just do some freestyle drawing. Oh my gosh, this happened to me earlier. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, you guys. So I'm just going to start talking. So the Tower is a great card because we're at the beginning of 2026. And I don't know about everybody else, but I've heard a lot of people talking about this year of like rate change that we're kind of going into. So yeah, I just want to invite you to, look at the card, bring it closer. Black can be associated with a kind of heaviness. But if you look at the clouds, there's actually something really beautiful and fresh coming on the horizon. And there's also this red, I like the red cape of the person on the left falling. It kind of looks like someone laughing, which is kind of really interesting. And in these cards, when you see these little like tiny flame-like images, but they're also in other cards in other colors, and they might be petals, they tend to mean like they're blessings from spirit, something divine. And now, if you stop drawing, and just for the sake of argument, I'm going to quickly draw something. I like to sometimes draw with this kind of like automatic style, which I've been learning also in the last year. Okay, so this is my tower. So I've seen a lot of the other, I'm going to keep this here and we're going to look at them all together at the end. I saw in the other workshops that there's a lot of this, where a lot of people are doing the 8-page zine, which I'm also doing, and I think it's so great and really fun format. So I want you to now take your page And essentially you fold it in half through the middle. And then you're going to fold it again. So you folded it into 4. And then you fold it again. The interesting thing about the tower just coming up again for me is that I practiced this earlier and I got the tower. And often, sometimes, if you start doing readings for yourself, you'll get some cards and you'll be like, I really didn't want that. And then you go, but you can't change it because it will happen again and you'll keep getting the same cards. And they think there's something really cheeky and mischievous about tarot. So once you've folded it, it should look like this. And you then turn it and fold it now this way, so it's more square. I've actually got some scissors, but you can also just rip. But you want to make a cut through the side that is the fold. You're going to make just one cut just to the middle. And then you're going to pull it back out, fold it, and then you do this sort of like accordion and push it together. If anyone's having if anybody wants me to redo anything, just shout. And no, everyone's good. So then you should have an 8-page zine. And I think what's interesting about using this signifier as like a kind of wallpaper for the whole thing is that you're now going to start adapting these original drawings into the next pages. And, you know, work intuitively what feels right to you, which one you want to be the outside, and then or the inside. And then when you've decided on your cover, we're going to go to now page 1 to 2. If you really wanted to, you could number them. I'm going to do it just for the sake of clarity. And now I'm going to put another timer on, and we're going to have another 1.5 minutes to do another drawing responding to the next card I pull. So in theory, this is kind of like this card, I'm going to intentionally say like this sort of represents maybe everyone's past. When I'm actually reading, I don't pull from the top of the pack. I sort of like put them out like this, like a fan. And then I'm just going to say this is, okay, I'm going to give everyone a second just to look at this and intuitively respond. Oh, heaven. Okay. Temperance. So what I like about temperance is this notion that water never stays still. So she's also pouring the water between the 2 cups, which, if we remember, is about love, the heart, and the triangle is on her heart. So this is kind of you know, what feels right to you in your heart. And spiritually, the more that we connect with our heart in meditation or however you want to do it in your drawing or so on, the more we kind of operate on a kind of happier frequency. It doesn't have to be about like erotic love. It's really about just like love and happiness. And I think this card is really balanced. Like even the colors are very balanced. You have kind of the reds and the yellows, the blues. I like this idea that, you know, the journey of life is like we'll be in one beautiful garden, but there'll be another beautiful garden. And there's always, you know, even when times are challenging, there's still like more, you know, beauty ahead. And often when I see this card, I'm thinking about a sort of caution to the person I'm reading, depending on what this card might be next to, is just to really bring attention to, you know, where are you sending your energy? Is there anything in your life that you could be ready to let go of and leave in the previous pool of water? And then when you're ready, that's the end of that 1.5 minutes. And after this, we'll have time to go back and draw more into all of these. So that's temperance. Oh yeah, I'll do my cup floweth. Okay, so then we turn and we're now on page 3-4. And I'm now going to pull another card, which again, I invite you to take a moment to look at it and instinctively feel what you think it means to you. This is called the Hierophant. It's number 5 as well on the major arcana, which is interesting. He's kind of known as like the keeper of the keys. I've actually read, there's a tarot reader that I quite like from Scotland called Soraya. And she says that when you see the Hierophant, it means that you've got some gossip. You might know something juicy. But I'm also quite attracted to the crosses and the X's in this one. And these people kind of coming to, worship the leader. I think there's something really interesting when we're talking about this. Hierophant hierarchy. Maybe this is something you're being invited to let go of. Or maybe this is an invitation to give some weight to something that might be really important for you this year. Red is also a symbol of power and authority. That's the 1.5 minutes. I like these sexy crosses. This year I'm gonna let go of smoking cigarettes. So I'm just gonna, well, I say that, but I might have one. Anyway, joking. Okay, so the next page is 5-6. This is the final of the, so when I pull this card, I'm kind of thinking about the card of the future. Oh, genius. Okay, great. Completion. Integration as well. The world is sort of about integration. It's also about kind of like a destiny. Like, and I think really the best thing about life is that actually, if you kind of relax and know that things always seem to happen that need to happen for you, you can sort of just trust that as long as you're maybe like living in your intuitive feeling about what's right and what's wrong for you, then you're probably on the right track to be this glorious naked dancing lady. And notice the animals here. We have like various different kinds of animals. There's a sort of sense of an equal level of skills. Maybe being like fully present in your future. I think the reef is really interesting. And again, we've got more of these crosses, this cross shape, which for the UK, we grew up using the cross as a kiss, which I always think that my American friends are a bit disturbed when I'm leaving lots of kisses. And they don't know that it's just casual. And that is the last 1.5. And I'm just going to quickly draw. The biggest cross as a bow. Okay. So now I want to invite you to now open up the page all over again. So now we're seeing the whole thing, the whole perspective, which is what you would get if you were doing your full tarot. And this is obviously the cover, which we're going to come to. And if you have a spare piece of paper, this is a nice moment to use it, or you might just want to do it on the inside if your ink doesn't bleed like mine does. And I just want to invite everyone to spend 3 minutes doing some writing, freestyle writing, whatever comes into your mind, writing about what you think this is about. Just if you summarize it with words. I'll briefly show you it, but I did the same thing and I summarized it earlier. So take some time to do that for you. I'm going to reset the alarm. Oops. Okay, so when you're ready, go. And if you're finished writing, you could also keep drawing into it if you feel called. I've put the cards on the screen so you get more time to acknowledge them. And then if you now finish, a lot of people probably will be familiar with that practice from The Artist's Way. If you've looked at Julia Cameron's work, it's amazing. And the morning pages. And I think it's a really useful way to, I mean, we didn't have much time, but usually on that third page or towards the end, you get to like a sort of nugget of truth that's quite fun or an idea. But yeah. And I don't know if anyone's aware, a lot of people probably heard of it maybe, but it's called elimination poetry. And I like to use this practice as a way to find titles for my films. So I have like my last animation film, completed film, was called Made for Duty Overseas. And it was about a woman who meets a woman and is a bit obsessed with her and smoking. And so I got the packet of cigarettes that the woman this was based on gave me, and I eliminated certain words off the back. And that's why it's called Made for Duty Overseas. But then Made for Duty Overseas then took on this whole meaning of the whole film itself. And I think there's something, again, this is another way of using your intuition in your practice to come up with something very independent to you. So I mentioned I had already pulled some cards for myself earlier, and I got the bloody tower. Sometimes I used to be quite terrified of the tower, but now I'm cool with it. And I encourage everyone to feel cool with it too. I guess it's about growing up and accepting change. So the way that elimination poetry works is obvious. It's just you simply eliminate words. And if you're using I know it's like, and when I do it, I'm just doing it as I feel like it. Like, and I'll just stop when I feel like I want to stop. So and then, sorry, once I've done that, I'll look at all the words that are left. And so already I have change inevitable. And with these remaining words, try and put together a title for your zine, or, a short quip that can go on the outside. So yeah, I'll reset the timer to 2 minutes, I think would be enough. Ready? I'm now going to reset the timer to another 3 minutes. And if we put our zines back together, so we now have this front cover. So you might not yet have your title, but I want to invite you to take the next 3 minutes. No, I'll make it 3.5 minutes. I'm being stingy. Take the next 3.5 minutes to draw and design your cover based around maybe these words, or the different aspects that have come to you in the last 5 minutes. So I'm just going to reset the timer. Ready? I've managed to speed through this in a way that I didn't think I'd be able to. So this gives me an opportunity to say some extra things, which is, oh, I'm going to share my screen quickly. Everyone can see this. Sorry. There's an artist called Gali who I want everyone to be aware of because they are brilliant, and they are in, I think they're in their 80s, and they live in Berlin, I think, GALI. And I saw their show at Goldsmith CCA last year, and it was brilliant. And I really love the way that they would make these zines with all the pages just coming out, which is what I've started to do here. And I guess I want to just encourage anyone who might be continuing with the zine that they've started making today or made today, is to maybe think about if there were any shapes in here that really stood out to you that you could maybe cut out of other paper and use, maybe try and make a bit of a space between the glue and the paper by folding up other paper to make a bit of distance, or just glue in. And on the left is a work by Paul Thek, who's also quite a well-known artist. He was like friends with like Peter Hajar and that kind of era, New York. And also you should just look him up generally. He's got such an interesting practice, but he would do lots of painting on newspaper. So my other thought, essentially what this zine is, I think is quite interesting, is that it kind of functions a little bit like a mandala. So mandalas tend to have a kind of, they operate around a center. And lots of things are actually mandalas more than just what we traditionally think. Even human beings are technically mandalas because we have energy centers, and then we're just, radiating in kind of different ways. So, if you maybe don't even want to make your zine public, in a way, the zine is kind of representative of you, and you might see something really valuable in what it might be telling you about yourself. And you can hold on to this and carry it like a mandala. And they say this about embroidery, like if you really want to, or I mean, this is a kind of a Ukrainian folklore, but if you wanted to get pregnant and you were struggling, you would go and buy embroidery from a woman who has loads of babies and makes embroidery. And I guess like the tarot, there's a kind of vibrational quality that is put into things when we put energy and intention into doing them, which I think we all have today anyway. And I think that is kind of everything. I wanted to actually have some time to ask people. Yeah, we have 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or feedback, or would like to show what they've done? Or maybe, yeah, well, maybe not. I mean, if anyone has any questions about the tarot as well, you're very welcome to ask. And if you're curious about where to get tarot, well, I guess it's quite obvious. There's also Watkins Bookshop in central London, if you're in London, and they sell a lot of tarot. And then obviously Glastonbury is where I'm from, but a lot of bookshops these days sell tarot. And you can also even order it online. And I think that if you do that, just do nice things to it to make it yours. So the first thing you would do is touch every card in the deck and shuffle them up, and so that you're like imbibing your energy into it, and maybe find some kind of meaningful material to you. It doesn't actually have to be silk, or it could just be the box, And I would also encourage you not to look at the meanings in the book that comes with the cards, and just spend some time thinking about what you think these things mean, because often, you're right, and really when you're reading tarot, it's really just the first thing that comes to mind. So what sometimes the reader, or if I've received a reading from someone else, they've just said random words that have come into their minds. I might have done this today for you, and it will mean nothing to them. They're just saying whatever's, they're just freestyling. And then, but you'll be like, oh yeah, oh God, how would they know? So yeah, I want to give that kind of invitation to take, be be free to like take ownership over these things. Don't let people tell you what to believe, and which sounds a bit school kid, but yeah. And I've managed to finish 4 minutes early. I was so scared.
Don't worry. You've delivered a really exciting workshop, so thank you very much. I really enjoyed making my zine. Yeah, what am I call it? Each time we've delivered one of these workshops, I've been really excited to see how even using a similar kind of format, you can get so many different things coming out the other side. Yeah, and thank you for showing us your world and showing us your how you interpret the tarot, which again, I've never been to a workshop where we've done that, so it was really, really lovely to see all the different kind of cards and the forms and their meanings.
Oh, I'm really happy because it was very brief. Because I guess we've only really seen a few cards together, but I hope that everyone feels like they have the tools to, yeah, continue exploring it, because it's such a fascinating object that seems to have come into the existence of this beautiful planet we're on. Thank you so much, Ryan and Charlie, for
No,
having.
no worries. There's a quick question that's just come in. Where do you recommend further tarot research?
Okay, I do actually have something that I only just heard of her recently. I found her in India. But she's a Scottish tarot reader, and I think what she's saying is really interesting. I would say, so she's called Soraya. You can probably buy this book secondhand. I mean, it will be secondhand at this point. But Soraya, she's a Scottish reader. So she looks like a groovy lady. And it's an interesting book, and I would just say that when you read her interpretation of it, she's quite an alternative way of reading. And also, there's no format for reading tarot. People see the Celtic cross. That's just like one way of doing it. That's not. There is no way. There is no. Tarot is really great because there's no prescription, so you don't have to read in that way. And she suggests alternative way of reading. But I would just say, if you look at this book, I find that what she says is pretty accurate, but it's a bit more negative than the language that I would use. So I've been reading it and being like, oh God, somebody's going to steal something from me. And then like something actually has happened of that ilk, but a much more nice version. So yeah, Soroya. And I did my tarot course with a woman called Beacon Academy, which is such a Glastonbury term word. The most famous, sorry, is Biddy Tarot. And she has an amazing podcast called, maybe just search Biddy Tarot podcast. She has a podcast, and there's also there's a lot of interesting tarot podcasts out there, and they're just quite nice to listen to because, I just feel like every time everybody has such a different way of reading that you learn something new. And also tarot is an invitation to just reflect. So something might come up and you're just like, oh, that's really interesting how that happens. Yeah. Are there any other?
Much for coming along, and thank you, Katie, for running such a wonderful workshop. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah, thank you very much.